All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Julius C. Jefferson Jr., and I am ALA President, and this is Holding Space. The bus is rolled into Cordes Lakes in Yavapai County, Arizona, for the latest in our national conversation series about libraries. We are delighted to be joined by panelists from across the state representing different library types, and we are here to discuss the unique role of libraries in rural communities. We are especially honored to be joined by elected officials representing some of those communities. So residents count on their rural libraries for information, resources, programming, and so much more. Community leaders and elected officials rely on rural libraries to reach stakeholders, to disseminate information, and to be an access point for critical services. In this current moment, the role of libraries in digital connectivity is clear. And libraries like Cordes Lakes have taken steps to meet increased need. But rural libraries are also important to human connectivity. And we look forward to hearing about that from you today. First, I'd like to welcome and introduce our panelists. And we have a powerhouse group of individuals for you today. This is actually our largest group. So I'll begin with introducing Senator Lisa Otondo, Minority Whip, Arizona State Senate, Yavapai County Supervisor Thomas Thurman, John Walsh, Director of Library Services at Cochise College and President of the Arizona Library Association, Corey Christians, Director of the Yavapai County Free Library District, which includes Cordes Lakes, Holly Henley, State Librarian, Nicole Umayam, Digital Inclusions Library Consultant at the Arizona State Library. Erin McFarlane, Legislative Committee Chair for the Arizona Library Association. Jessica Rainbow, Policy Consultant for the Arizona Library Association. Amandee Ricketts, Director of the Cochise County Public Library District. Amber Mathewson, Director of the Pima County Library District. Liz Zepeda, Library Director at the Otondo College Library. And Marla Price, Library Assistant at Navajo Technical University. So welcome everybody, and let's get started for a great conversation. So I want to start, and I know it's really warm there in Arizona, and so this is going to be a really hot conversation. So I want to start by saying, while we've all been anxiously awaiting this, the certainty of a safe return to a physical library building, I want to talk about libraries as people, place, and platform, what the Aspen Institute identifies as the 3 key assets of libraries in the digital era, and the particular significance of those assets in rural communities. I'd like to start with Supervisor Thurman and Corey, who have worked together to make sure that Cordes Lakes Library had the resources needed to provide people, place, and platform to its community. So we'll start off with Corey. We'll hear from you first.
Sure. Thank you, Julius, and thank you for including us on your stop throughout Arizona. We really appreciate it. Yeah, the libraries are essential in rural areas such as Cordes and other rural areas throughout Yavapai County in Arizona and other states. Especially here, since 2011, Cordes Lakes Public Library has seen a 60% increase in the number of visits to this library in particular, which is an increase of 7,000 visits. Now, it may not seem like a lot to some of the large metropolitan libraries, but for us, that averages out to 7 visits per resident in this particular community. So that's a large increase. And what we found out is that on several occasions, here especially, it was exceeding the capacity of the building. So we actually had to expand the size of the library in order to accommodate all the residents, because it's not just about books or movies, it's about a place. People have to have some place to have a community meeting. They like to celebrate Star Wars Day. There's other community events that happen in the library as well. And what we're seeing is that emphasis on place is becoming increasingly important, as well as providing other services that they might not get somewhere else. For instance, all of our libraries in rural areas are able to do notaries. They're part of the notary public, because they would have to travel 1 to 2 hours in some cases just to get a document notarized. So there's important services that they're providing that in some cases they're the only civic building in their community. We also have some instances like Ash Fork Public Library where there are more people registered as patrons of the library than are actually in the community. So in that particular case, there's 100 people more than the community because they come in from outside the community to use the library, because that's the only place they can go for that service. So they are indeed essential and becoming increasingly important as time goes on. And thankfully, the Board of Supervisors for Yavapai County have been extremely supportive of their libraries. And I'll let Tom talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Corey. And I have 11 unincorporated communities just in my district. And there's 5 districts in this county. We're about the size of New Jersey, but we only have a population of about 240,000. So these centers are, a lot of times they are community centers. I will say too, being that the location to our main 2 hubs in Yavapai County is the Verde Valley. Everybody's heard of Sedona. Well, in Cottonwood is one of our main locations, and so is Prescott. A lot of these outer lying areas, these folks have no way to come in here to the larger libraries. And so with our network that we have, they can get online now, or they can do it in person if they make an appointment during this COVID, but they can order a book. And of course, the smaller libraries don't have a lot of books on hand, but on the flip side, we can get it to them within 2 or 3 days. And Corey's group has been great. We used to use a private vendor for taxing all these books all over the place, and now he took it on himself to actually deliver all this, and it's been working out great. We're saving money. Another thing on these libraries too is a lot of folks maybe want to do a deck or room addition or something, and they have to drive 40 minutes, 50 minutes to get to do a permit. If they have it, and most of them do now, they can download it to a PDF. They can go to our library and actually get their permit over our library computers with the county, and not have to drive all the way in to some place and to do this. And so it's worked out great with the schools being closed so much. Even when they're open prior to COVID, these places kids congregate. And what a good place to get them to congregate, in my opinion, is that they can learn something while they're doing that, because we don't let them, rabble rouse too much inside of a library, but our librarians take care of that. But on the flip side, it gives them something to do, because the schools can't do that. Also, we had a program where all of our libraries now, I believe all of them, or almost all of them, have broadband internet. And so a lot of communities don't even have internet, period, except maybe over their cell phone, and some of those even that. And so it works out well in our libraries to help, even if you had a business, you could come in and use our faster internet speeds here periodically, whatever you needed to do. I mean, it's just, we had vets on the other day. They were the veterans, and these guys were talking about how they were raised around libraries and how they got to use it, and it was just made your heart feel good. So thank you.
No, I really like the idea of libraries as a place. And I want to bring in Amber, Amity, and John. And I want you to talk about libraries as people, place, and platform in rural communities along the U.S.-Mexico border. Amber, start with you.
Hi, thank you for having us today. I think one of the challenges, especially along the border with different groups of people, migrants, immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, they haven't always had a great interaction with maybe a government agency, or just knowing what's available to them. So I think that it's been really important for us to make sure that people know about us and feel welcomed. And it's not enough just to have programs done in Spanish, for instance, which we've done for years, which is great. But if you haven't gone out into the community to see what is really needed and connected with the people where they are, you're going to miss the mark. And we were lucky enough a couple of years ago with LSTA funding to hire a consultant who is a native Spanish speaker, used to working with different populations, who helped us do a survey through various community outreaches to find out what the community really wanted. And it has helped us to really design our services for Spanish-speaking people for what they need. And it also has changed our administration as well. We added a position, a Latinx program manager, and to really help us get the kinds of programming that is needed by the community. I think especially in the rural communities that we were missing the mark sometimes, not realizing that programs need to, if we can't necessarily target a specific age group because the entire family might come, for instance. And the same programs that work in our urban libraries aren't necessarily going to be the things that are working out there. So I think it's being willing to ask the questions and ask the community what they want, which seems like a no-brainer, but often we do those polls on our library website, or we have surveys inside the library. But if people aren't in the library, then they don't get to have that say or get to share with us. And we have recently started also with our Mini Nations team, reaching out to our tribal communities and learning what we could possibly help with, if at all, and letting those communities actually lead the conversation. And it sometimes takes a lot more time than we might be used to just throwing together a program and making it happen. But being willing to have those great conversations and really be mindful about the things that we produce in the library or take into the community, if that's the better way to do it.
Thank you, thank you. Let's go to Amity.
Hi, so I'm the library director here in Cochise County, which is way south and east of Tucson on the Mexican border. We're a very rural county. So we're 6,000 square miles and only about 130,000 residents. Some of the communities we serve only have a couple hundred people. So I really relate to a lot of what Corey and Supervisor Thurman said about Yavapai County. So we're meeting community needs in some of the same ways that have been mentioned. It's really been a challenge for us to provide a place over the last few months, but that has really been a strength for us. In many of these communities, our libraries are the only public building that's available for folks. We're the only public internet. And so that by itself is a big deal. And we're really looking for ways to bridge the gap in this time of limited services. But a couple of quick things that stood out for me are the ways that our libraries have been connecting people even during this time. So over this last couple of months during the summer reading program, our rural branches partnered with local schools to serve more than 500 healthy lunches for kids and teens, which was a huge deal in these tiny communities. We also do serve as a community hub. And so a program that really stood out to me last year at one of our town libraries was part of the Frank Talks series, which is presented by the Arizona State Library and Arizona Humanities. These are on all kinds of hot topics, and they bring people together for facilitated discussions. This one was held at the Douglas Public Library, less than 2 miles from the port of entry with Mexico. And it brought more than 60 people out on a rainy night to have a really deeply felt but civil discussion about the border and the wall and the way that that impacts the community. And I don't think that any entity other than a library could have served that unique role in bringing these people together from very different points of view and helping them see each other as people. So that was really meaningful, and I'm so proud that we're here to serve these little communities.
Thank you so much for your service. John, let's bring you in here. Unmute, John. Yeah, there you go. Unmute. There you
Sorry
go.
about that. Thanks, Julius. Thanks for stopping in Arizona. As Amandee was saying, our Cochise College is also in Cochise County down here in the southeastern corner, right on the border. Both campuses are within 10 miles of the border. The Douglas campus within a mile of the border. And the county is as big as, well, 6,000 square miles. That's like Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, all in one place, but with just 130,000 population. Library is people. Before we look at the library as a place, we really need to discuss library as people here. Because at our libraries, it's our community and our students that drive the concept of place. It's the user's demands and the user's needs that make the place. And Douglas campus and Sierra Vista campus, we have 2 campus libraries. And the populations we serve are just as different as those names. Now, the Sierra Vista campus library is close to downtown Sierra Vista, the largest city in the county. We sit right on the edge of a large military base that makes the community even larger. It's a non-traditional campus. There's no dorms. There's no sports teams here. The demographics of the student population are less diverse. They're older. The average student age is 31. We serve public users also. We're open to the public besides students and staff. Now the Douglas Library, it's 10 miles from the closest town. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's highly diverse. Over 90% of the student population is characterized as Hispanic or Latinx. The average student population age is 22, much younger, full traditional campus with dorms, sports complex, board teams. Again, it sits 1 mile north of the border, and many of our students cross the border every day to get to class. And it's these 2 different populations that have really created and implemented the current role of both libraries. Now, libraries as place, both libraries present a traditional role of the academic library. Both are utilized by the students for studying, circulation of items, books, DVDs, laptops. It's a welcoming place where the surrounding community, our student populations and staff, they come to us for help with just about anything. The staff's there to answer questions on anything. If they can't answer your question, they're going to find somebody who can. And on both campuses, again, students' needs and demands are what created the place. The Sierra Vista Library users, they've embraced that traditional role of the academic library. It's how they use the library as a traditional academic library. They come here to study. They come here for a quiet place. They check out items. They use the computer lab. Now, the DC library, it does play a similar role to the population there, but the user's demands and needs have really expanded the library as a place there, and it includes so much more. These students really have made the place more of a social gathering center. It's where they go to meet their friends, they get coffee, they come there to relax. They don't just come to study, they come to meet each other. It's really become a social center on campus. Additionally, just through the needs and demands of that population, we developed a tutoring center, the TLC, in that library. Come to the TLC and get some TLC. And we've also created a classroom right inside the main library where classes are conducted from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Students constantly coming and going through from the library. There's a coffee bar. We've expanded the open computer lab with many more computers. Even the study rooms really have become more of a group meeting place. You know, they're always full with 4 or 5 people, but they're, you know, they're more there to meet each other than to study. Again, it wasn't the staff or me that really developed the libraries in this way. both libraries really naturally designed themselves by the people that they were serving. Their needs, their demands are what drove the design and everything that happens in the library. Now, library as platform, that's more recent. It's kind of a living, ongoing thing. And it's not really a transition from place to platform. It's more that we've just offered a platform within the place. And this started a few years ago when we developed VR educational services here in the library. This is a program that we run out of the library. It started as a support service for classroom instruction. We started supporting different faculty with VR simulations that targeted their curriculums. But it's really morphed into a real educational service for the whole community. There's a small VR lab in each library now where students can schedule time to take science labs. They can experience occupational training, really learn just about anything they want through an immersive environment. Like the police academy cadets, they come here, go to the VR lab to do real life simulations of active shooters, domestic violence experiences. Our CTE program, the construction students, they come and do engineering and architecture simulations. The automotive students come and learn how to build a car from the ground up, even the welding of the frames. Everything you can think of, EMT, nursing, bio students, they all have access to real on-the-job training simulations that are lifelike and really more effective than their traditional instructions. It's different because we didn't create the libraries ourselves. It was the people, the populations that really designed what we do, what we offer. It was their needs and demands.
Oh, thanks, John. I mean, that's a really thorough, I have a really thorough understanding of all that goes on there. I want to bring in Liz and Marla because you both work in rural libraries that are located within tribal nations. So I want to bring you in. Let's start with Liz.
And much the same as what John was saying, we basically, anything we're doing is reflective of needs of the students. So if a student needs, I don't know, a place to charge their phone, all of a sudden we have charging stations. You know, we just are trying to, if they need language materials, we're looking for those no matter how obscure they are. And with our tribe, and I don't know if you're like how many people really are familiar with our nation, the Thanatham Nation actually is in the southern part of the state, but it also overlaps into Mexico. So we actually share 62 miles of the border with Mexico, even though to us, we're just like, it's kind of a made up thing to us. But we try our best to deal with the language, the O'odham language, and then also we have to sometimes work in Spanish as well. So we're not only dealing with English and O'odham, we're dealing with Spanish. We have one library that's actually 20 miles out past our city's, our tribal capital, and that's our main library where students have access to computers. And now, of course, the way things have been, we've had to put a lot of our information online. But the biggest issue we have is that many of our tribal members don't have access. And even if they do have cellular service on their phones, it's very spotty in some spots. And our nation is very responsive. They've put up 49 Wi-Fi areas across the nation, but it's also the same size as Connecticut, I think is what it's been estimated to be. And it doesn't always work because we have mountains that block the Wi-Fi. So students have to travel and travel very far. And it's just, sometimes it's a lot for students to deal with. So we have to make sure that we're always on call, literally on calls with students. I make sure that we can either make copies. We do a lot of mailing for students right now, and we're trying to make sure that, you know, if there's a message left, we're responding immediately to them, because sometimes it's even it's not easy for some students to get access to a phone. So there are a lot of situations that we deal with that may echo what other rural librarians are dealing with. But at the same time, we have we just have a massive digital divide on top of all of that. But we do have students who do come from northern Mexico, Sonora, and even my own family is from northern Mexico because of being displaced by the border. But we do our best to meet the needs of our students and our people because we are open to the public as well. And we do have tribal members who come in who are not students, but we service their needs as well. But I think Marla might have some of those same issues.
Thanks, Liz. Marla?
Well, Navajo Tech University's academic library, of course. We have five sites, I should say. The main campus is located in Crown Point, New Mexico, which is about roughly 2.5 hour drive from the Henley campus, which is located in Arizona, the upper northeast part of Arizona, in the Navajo Nation. And so there's only 2 library staff right now. So right now we have our means of traveling to everyone is just through Zoom, phone calls, emails. So we cater to not only to our students, but partially to the community as well. As Liz was saying, we are in such a rural area from a public library, even from the closest city is about an hour to 2-hour drive away. And so a lot of times we cater to the community. Cell services, again, is very spotty. We try to help those that come in from these different areas, and sometimes they stay here all day for internet services, printing, notary, and so we try to help the community as much as we can. Students actually travel from a distance as well, and they stay in the library up until it's closing. Because of what's happening right now, our hours actually been reduced up to 7 o'clock to give the staff enough time to meet the Navajo Nation curfew, which is about 8 o'clock. So we shut down about 7, took 2 hours off our normal time. Again, we have also the Navajo Nation weekend lockdowns, so the library is closed on weekends. But I try to help students as much as I can from home if it's on the weekends. We do have online services available to them, to students, to the community, who's ever wanting to use them. And then on Mondays when I'm able to get to work, I try to get as much as I can done for them, and I just let them know these documents are waiting for them if it needs printing. If they checked out anything or returning anything, I try to meet them wherever they are, or at least halfway. If not, then I usually tell them just mail it in. And mail service is really slow right now, and it's challenging right now, especially with everything that's going on. It's very challenging. And then again, there's only 2 of us, so we really depend on student workers to be in our library to assist with our library hours, and then just to assist in anything in general with the library.
Yeah, thank you, Marla. I mean, when you say it's challenging, I saw lots of heads go up and down. But I want to bring in Senator Otondo, and Senator, in the district you represent, what do libraries as assets, as people, place, and platform mean for you and your constituents?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to this. My district is the 2nd largest district in Arizona. It encompasses 4 counties, Maricopa, Pinal, Pima, and Yuma County, and 2 sovereign tribal nations, Otondo, Otom, and also the Cocopah nation, the Cocopah tribe. Of course, my district is almost 3/4 of the border, and as Liz mentioned earlier, the Tohono O'odham Nation is approximately the size of Connecticut. So that can just give you some idea of what my district looks like, and it's predominantly rural. So what it means, first of all, I need to give a shout out to our libraries who are working very closely with our county recorders, offering safe boxes for drop off of mail-in ballots. Really important for us so that we can allow all of our constituents to participate in their rights. But what this really means for us is just trying to address the issue of the digital gap. Now, many families in my district, if they don't have access to broadband, which many don't, if they do have access, they may not be able to afford it. I mean, it's cost prohibitive. So the libraries have really become the community anchor to help address those issues of the digital gap. And now what we're facing with online learning, it's just so important that the students have somewhere to go to be able to have internet access. I can tell you even months before, many students would be pulling up in a car near the library and getting onto the library's internet so that they could do their homework because they simply didn't have it in their homes. So I also want to give just another big shout out. I've been following some of the rural libraries who are doing storytelling and reading on, I was watching the Buckeye librarian kept posting it on Facebook so that families knew that during these difficult times, their children still had access to story time and other forms of learning. So just you know, an overall look, they're helping with, the libraries in my district are helping with elections. They're helping with addressing part of the digital gap. They're trying to provide opportunities for learning. And another really big one is ebooks. A lot of people are at home. There is nothing that can provide a better escape than a good book. And so having ebooks as an opportunity for a lot of individuals is also really important.
Wow.
Really important. And may I just address one more thing? The library has also become a real important place for our community. I can tell you during the last couple of years, I've attended many meetings, for example, for the census, as we gather people to help address the census. And as you know, our returns are very low, but prior to the pandemic, it's where we were doing community organizing so that our rural communities could get the federal funding they need and make sure that individuals are counted. So they're important in a wide variety of areas and issues.
Thank you. And I guess after hearing you rave about the story time, someone may ask you to come and read a story to their library. Just
I would love to. I've read several times. There's an elementary school named after my mother, Mary A. Otondo Elementary in Yuma. And before I was in politics, I really used to love to go read to the kids on Dr. Seuss Day, and I would always do that. That's great. I was a teacher for 6 years, 8th grade language arts at Crane Middle School in Yuma. And so that would be wonderful. And I'll even do a Zoom. So we could do this.
Hear that, everybody?
I'm offering.
I want to bring in Holly here. And Holly, I want you to give us the state perspective as state librarian. What are you seeing in terms of place, people, platform?
Thank you, Julius. First of all, welcome to Arizona on behalf of the Arizona State Library Archives and Public Records. And we really hope that you'll be able to come in person in the future and visit our amazing libraries across the state. I'd like to answer your question from the perspective of a state library and services that we offer to help libraries and library staff to serve their diverse rural populations. So our library development branch here at the State Library has as its mission to empower libraries to provide excellent customer service through resources, consulting, training, and grant funding. The rural libraries may not have all the resources that a large urban system has, but they have a strong desire to really serve their communities. So they may not have a procurement expert, a training department, a grant writer, an E-rate application expert. And so that's where the state library can come in to assist and support the staff in those libraries. I'd like to just address each of those 4 points. As far as resources, for example, we offer the basic tools for a statewide summer reading program, which includes the software for online summer reading. And we were really, really happy this summer that we had that in place so that our libraries could offer summer reading online when they couldn't have programming in the library. The state library's Arizona Talking Book Library provides mail service of audiobooks to the blind and print disabled. We have professional staff in our research library and archives who are always available to assist with reference questions. And then we have an E-rate administrator who assists libraries with understanding the complicated E-rate process to apply for reimbursements through E-rate. Consulting. Our library development team has a group of consultants who are available by phone, by email. They make site visits. And during the pandemic, they have offered stay connected office hours. So it's been a time to gather online and to share information, experiences, knowledge. And we have found that the library staff have really enjoyed having this opportunity to hear how are others in rural libraries? How are they coping? How are they meeting the needs of their customers with new service models? And training provided to rural library staff is so important. The Arizona libraries have amazing staff who are enthusiastic and they're devoted to serving their communities. Not all of them have an advanced degree in library science or information science, and they're eager to learn what are best practices in the field. And so this is where the state library comes in, and we have a number of different opportunities that we provide. One that we've been doing for about 25 years, which unfortunately we were not able to do this summer, is a Summer Library Institute, where we bring participants from rural libraries together on the campus of a university or community college. And for a week, we have an intensive training experience, and it gives them an opportunity to get to know one another so that they then have a network of colleagues that they can call on when things come up that they want to discuss. What would you do in this situation? And so Summer Library Institute has been one of our very, very popular programs with rural librarians, and they usually will come for 3 summers in a row, and just to develop those job skills and foundational knowledge. And then we offer lots of other opportunities for learning. We do in-person workshops, which in recent months have been suspended. And so we have expanded our opportunities for online learning and made available more webinars and online classes for rural library staff. And then we also have a program that's called Go Train that allows rural librarians to have a substitute to come into the library so that they're able to continue service to the public while they're participating in training. And finally, I wanted to talk about grants. Many of the programs and services to libraries that we've been talking about are supported by Library Services and Technology Act funding from the Institute of Museum and Library Services through the Grants to States program. The State Library is a division of the Office of the Secretary of State, and the state monies that support the state library's operations also serve as match and maintenance of effort for those federal LSTA funds. So in addition to the statewide projects, we also offer subgrants to libraries with the LSTA funding to help them respond to the diverse needs of their communities. And since April of this year, we've also been able to offer subgrants from CARES Act funding that was allocated to the state library, and that was also through the Grants to States program. One of the needs that we see in rural libraries is to apply for grant funding, but they may not have a grant writer who has expertise in writing the grants. So we do everything that we can to make it easy for libraries to apply for the grants. One of the things is our library development administrator, who is the grants consultant, offers training. And then the consultants are available to answer questions and help with the grant writing process. We've also started a program with having express grants or very simple grants where we have identified the outcomes that we are looking for. We may have a designated amount of funding to distribute, and then it makes it easier for the libraries to apply for these grants. And some examples from LSTA are Wi-Fi hotspot lending grants, CAP grants, which are collections and programming, citizen science grants, and staff development day grants. So under the CARES Act, we also provided express grants where the state library ordered materials, and then the libraries were able to request the amount needed. So finally, we also provide state grants and aid with funds appropriated by the legislature. Construction funding to public libraries and annual awards for county libraries and other libraries based on population. It was a construction grant from SGIA that helped with funding for this project here at Cordes Lakes Library that where we are visiting today.
Thank you, Hallie. And earlier you mentioned broadband, and everywhere that we have stopped, we've heard the call for expanded access to broadband, both for increased capacity within libraries, for easier access to hotspot lending, and ultimately for universal access. I want to bring Nicole in here as someone who works statewide to ensure digital connectivity. What has that meant for the state library and the support you provide, particularly in this moment when it became clear to those who weren't paying attention that we have a huge, and then we've heard this throughout our tour, and we've heard this today, a huge digital divide?
Thanks, Julius. Yes, I think this conversation really shows us all how important it is for everyone to be connected and just how interconnected we all are in terms of supporting each other as library staff and at the state library. I'm not the first person to note that access is a technical matter, but accessibility is a matter of equity and justice. We know infrastructure might be available so that access is there. A library might have Wi-Fi, access is there, but as the panelists have mentioned, getting to the library is a challenge. And at the statewide level, we also know that the bandwidth and the digital capacity of the library's signal itself isn't always equitable. Some of our rural library buildings don't provide service that meets the FCC's definition of broadband service at 25 megabits down, let alone reach the FCC's aspirational benchmarks for library networks of 100 megabits down. Digital equity overall is a process of systemic change. And in this process, you often review where you've missed the marks and you're painfully aware of ironic moments. There's 1.3 million Arizona households that don't have broadband internet access at home, and many of these are library staff members themselves. We know a lot of library staff want to participate in virtual conferences like this very conversation. They want to join our Stay Connected calls with library development. They want to take advantage of online training opportunities, but they themselves are in communities where internet is not sufficient or affordable. We also see some ironic moments where we try our best to respond to needs quickly, but it's simply not enough. There's a big movement for parking lot Wi-Fi in libraries and other anchor institutions. But I have to think that here in Arizona, where we had temperatures of 118 degrees Fahrenheit recorded last week, that's just not a humane way to provide service to something that's really a lifeline for people.
Right.
We've also talked about hotspot lending programs, and the state library has been able to support a number of rural, tribal, and urban libraries and school libraries and community college libraries in getting Wi-Fi hotspots out. That's really a band-aid solution because it cannot ever meet the full demand for home internet access. And we found that for some rural libraries, it wasn't a feasible project because they didn't have the cell phone coverage in the first place to make that a sustainable project. We also know that some rural libraries are getting used to trying online engagement for the first time and offering virtual services where they maybe never did before. We've heard about some libraries interested in providing virtual storytimes in O'odham, in Hopi, in Dene, in the languages of this land, but they might need some training to get started. They need a location where they can film those services that has great connectivity and the equipment itself. We're also seeing libraries become more involved in expanding community-led Wi-Fi deployment, whether this is through leveraging EBS, TV white space, through adding network boosters into the parking lot, or through access to the 2.5 gigahertz spectrum band over tribal lands. So at the state, we try to support libraries to have enough information about their locally controlled decisions over broadband deployment and what access looks like.
Mm-hmm.
One final trend I'll point out is that libraries have been doing digital equity work for a long time through one-on-one tech support, through providing access. And during this pandemic, we're also seeing libraries respond to the call of broadband adoption and really getting that one-on-one support as local trusted members of the community to make sure that everybody can get online. We are piloting a project in Arizona called the Arizona Libraries Tech Access Phone Line. And this is a network of 5 library staff who are on the phone to help people identify discount internet offers that are available in their area, to point them to free Wi-Fi hotspots that might be available around them, to point out where they can get discount internet computers, as well as all the tech help. And they're very patient and responsive to answering questions from, hey, how do I get set up on Zoom, to how might my own library implement some of these digital services. I just want to say libraries are really able to respond to crises because they're essential parts of the communities that they serve. And communities thrive when everybody is considered to be essential.
That's right. Thank you. That's right. I agree. And I want to move to looking at some of the policies in the state. So there's been a lot of conversations about federal remedies to insufficient broadband access, but there's also a lot of activity at the state level too. So I want to bring in Erin and Senator Otondo and hear from Jessica. Are there any state and federal broadband policy proposals that you're tracking right now? We'll go with Erin first.
Hi, thank you. So we are looking at there were grants at the state level. I think Senator Otondo can speak a little bit in a minute to what the legislature is looking at post-COVID, because there were things in the Lifeline that were coming through the House in the spring with the last legislative session that was cut short because of the COVID issue. But I know that at the state level, we are looking at ways to expand that broadband access. I think that other people have spoken clearly to the fact that libraries work hard to help to provide those connectivity points like hotspots that we can lend out to the community. But if the data isn't there to support those hotspots, there's nothing that we can do. Amandee spoke to that in a chat session that, they worked to provide the hotspots, but the data wasn't there, that infrastructure wasn't there. So we have stuff available in the state. I'm also looking at some federal broadband legislation put forth by James Clyburn the Internet Accessible, Affordable Internet for All Act that the federal government's been working towards. Those are the kinds of things that will help to fund some of the infrastructure that we need in order to set things up so that our communities can be successful with providing broadband access across the board, because we need that data available first for the libraries and to be able to help to provide some of those connectivity points. I also want to see if Jessica has anything else that she's aware of at the state level that's coming forward now after, you know, the legislature was finished in the spring because of COVID. So Jessica, do you want to speak to some of that?
Yeah, happy to, Erin. And I think, you know, what we will see in the 2021 session is I think the legislature will look at priorities. I mean, if I back up a little bit, so Arizona has made broadband a priority to get out to the rural areas of the state. And actually they work that through the Arizona Commerce Authority. That's the agency entity they use, and they do the coordination of broadband development in partnership with state and local government stakeholders and the private sector as a way to streamline some of the regulatory hurdles and maximize the funding for that in Arizona. And you know, the 2020 budget, the state allocated some funding, and that was as a grant match to leverage additional the federal E-rate funding to connect rural schools and libraries. So this is clearly an important issue for the state pre-COVID. You know, I think it's going to be more important as we move on, and maybe Senator Otondo actually has more insight into that and what the future looks like. But, you know, it's been important to this governor and the state legislature.
Senator?
So you're absolutely right. So even pre-COVID, we were looking at monies to go into broadband. But with everything that's happened in just the last few months, for those of us in rural areas who have known this for a long time and been fighting for the infrastructure for broadband to our areas, it has become blaringly obvious to the rest of the state for the needs. And I want to say, particularly on tribal nations, you know, this is not having access has disproportionately hurt low-income families, tribal nations, and rural areas. And it has to be addressed. So I believe that it will be a priority in 2021. When the pandemic started, we were hoping that there would be a special session to help address some of these issues. But it appears that there will not be a special session. So unfortunately, we're going to be waiting for 2021 to have the financial resources available to be able to do this, unless of course the governor can direct some of those CARES funds to the libraries, which would be a really good idea to do. And I know it's a topic that's being discussed because we have to make sure that our students aren't left behind that live in the rural and tribal areas. So I'm working with another group right now too, doing another big push to get more monies for broadband expansion in some of these areas. So.
Thank you. And I want to, we're getting close to the end of our time, but I want to talk about shared resources before we have to close. Everyone knows that libraries mean sharing, but one thing we don't emphasize enough is that libraries realize massive efficiencies through layers of sharing. We share with our communities, we share with each other. So I understand that Arizona has recently developed a consortium for rural libraries. Corey, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, thank you, Julius. I was fortunate to start out my library career in South Dakota as part of the South Dakota Library Network. So I started kind of from day one, just assuming all these infrastructures are in place to allow libraries to cooperate and share not just materials, but also on procurement. So I started talking, the state library was talking with the several people from the Arizona Library Association, me included, over the last couple of years. And it's finally gotten to the point where we've put together a consortium called COPPER, the Consortium of Procurement Partners Getting Electronic Resources. So it's been years in the making, and we're finally there. But the great part about it is it's going to allow the consortium to take on the role of procurement on behalf of its membership. So instead of having hundreds of libraries working to procure the exact same resource with all of those man hours into it, and not seeing any discount as a result of each person working individually on it, to rather work together and say, hey, we're going to have a contract for this on behalf of any library in Arizona that wants to participate in it, and see massive savings as a result of that. Even in Yavapai County, we have the Yavapai Library Network, which is a consortium now of 52 libraries that all work together, all different types of libraries, K-12, special, archival, public, academic, across the board, even private, working together to get resources. And we're seeing savings, but if we could replicate that on a statewide level, the savings is going to be considerably greater. And the state library is really taking a lead role in this even before COPPER was formed in the last, 10 to 15 years. Holly would know better, when they were negotiating a set of statewide databases for public libraries to participate in. And John has also been working with the community college libraries to do something similar. What we're hoping with COPPER is that it will take any library that wants to participate and be able to leverage working together to increase those efficiencies, get better deals, save more money, and get better resources.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Holly, did you want to add to that?
No, I would just say that it's this is an important work, but it is a work in progress right now. And we hope that by the next time that you visit with us, that we'll have some success stories to share with you.
Thank you. All right, we're coming to the end. I wanted to go to Supervisor Thurman before we end. Clearly, you are a stakeholder who didn't require a lot of convincing. So thank you very much for that. But what is your advice to us in the library community about how to build local support for libraries, especially with stakeholders that might require a little more convincing?
Well, you know, we use heavily here because we're underfunded, if you will. We use Friends of the Library for a lot of things, and part of that improvement at the Cordes Lakes Library was the Friends actually had enough money to buy the lot next door. And so we used that on the expansion, and some of the funds that Corey got and I got went towards paving that into a parking lot and converting a lot of things into handicap. And so Friends of the Libraries, they do great, and it's good to get folks connected that way. You'll find it's not just a bunch of gray hairs. You'll find families, moms and dads, that are concerned about their libraries. Worst case scenario is you threaten to close the library, and you'll see people come out of the woodwork. but without going that far, the Friends of the Library means a lot, and that to me is part of what we need to do. Other than getting some in those smaller communities, there's always the pseudo mayors. There's somebody thinks that they're the top dog for some neighborhood. Well, invite them in and explain to them what we need and what we don't need, and they'll help you if you give them some pseudo power that they think they may have. So, but that's thank you for that question.
No, thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. We have time for one more question. We have 2 more minutes, and I want to bring in Senator Otondo for our last question. What are your observations about the issues that resonate most with state legislators in general and at this moment? And what is your best advice for building support at the state capitol?
I think it's important that we continue to push for net neutrality for supporting the libraries. I think it's really important that we allow academic freedom and make sure that libraries have access to all information. The political climate now is so hot that I think the more we read about people and things and subjects different than our own, the closer we will become again as a nation. So I think that's really important that we make sure that libraries are open access for really freedom of intellectual exchange. And I think we need to continue to push for more internet access for our rural libraries and our tribal nations, because it's creating a horrible divide. Right now, many people can work from home. Those who can't are really left out of economic opportunities. Not only that, you apply for jobs on the internet today mostly, and we've just left a huge portion of our constituents, like I said, on tribal nations and in rural areas. We've left them behind, and we can't do that. We simply can't do that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, thank you so much. This was a great, I will say a cool conversation about hot topics. And I want to thank our panelists today for a great conversation. It was a good reminder of how diverse our real communities are. Thank you, John Walsh, Corey Christians, Holly Henley, Nicole Umayam, Erin McFarlane, Jessica Rainbow, Amandee Ricketts, Amber Mathewson, Liz Zepeda, and Marla Price. Thanks to Supervisor Thurman and State Senator Lisa Otondo. We appreciate your support for and partnership with libraries in Arizona. While there are many challenges facing our small and rural libraries right now, there's also inspiring work happening. And we know that these libraries are important to the resilience of communities as we all respond to this global pandemic. Federal, state, and local funding are essential to continuing this work in service to our communities. I want to remind everyone that ALA is working to secure relief for local libraries through the Federal Library Stabilization Fund Act. Be sure to contact your members of Congress and ask them to sign on. This was a great panel, and we've only scratched the surface on some of these topics, but we need to hop on the bus and continue our tour. I want to thank the Arizona State Library and Arizona Library Association for co-hosting this event with us. Thank you to the Arizona Library Association members and the ALA members, and to all of you who have tuned in today. So I want you to join us tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central as we visit the Nevada State Library for Learn and Earn. Nevada libraries harness virtual 3D for education and careers. We've got just a few stops left on this tour. So be sure to visit our tour website and sign up to join us, and follow the tour news at #ALA Holding Space. So I wish you all to be safe, be well, and thank you for holding space with us today. Thank you so much, everybody.
Take care, Julius.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you on the bus.
Yeah.